grateful for you guys to be here. And one of the important things about being a storyteller is shepherding the next generation. And believe it or not, you guys have a lot of lived experience already. And so it's important that as people mentor you, you should always think about how can I mentor someone else? And that's how we keep the family strong and tell better stories as a community. Any initial questions from you guys for any of us, or the floor is open until we are showtime at 7. And I can't fully see everyone. That's why I missed Maria and I missed.
You need to go up and go to your view, and then you go to gallery.
Gallery, let's see.
The little dots on the view on the right side, upper corner.
Is there? It is. All right. All right.
All right. All right. All right.
Thank you, Hoff Dog.
Mm-hmm. Andreas was part of that group that created that name for me back many years ago.
Really?
Thank you, Andreas, for that. Appreciate it. It lives on.
When the love is strong, you have nicknames.
Yes.
Hopefully you guys will all get nicknames in your storytelling careers.
Hey, NYU folks, are you guys going to finish up this semester, or the protests are taking over? Also, USC. Everyone okay?
Yeah, I think, while it is definitely a presence on campus, I think it is being mediaized as a much larger issue. It doesn't impact, I think, the day-to-day classes, especially in Tisch.
Okay. Because I have heard that some places are finishing up on Zoom, or, you don't have that problem. How about you, Henry? USC, anything?
Yeah, I mean, kind of similar to what Charles was saying. I think it's been kind of deemed that's a little more like chaotic than maybe it actually is. But we had like classes shut down for like 1 day, and now we can go back on campus. But we're done with classes already, so we don't even need to really be on campus. So it's all good.
You guys are done with classes for the semester's over?
Well, we just have finals left, which is like always weird because I have like a final in like 2 weeks. But between now and then, I got nothing. So I'm just trying to keep myself busy.
I'd be curious to talk with you guys when we have more time, just how the shape of your program is and how it's maybe different from the graduate level. But the BFA at USC has a very specific program. I'm curious to know if it's changed at all. But for all you guys, I think you might get questions from students of like, what is the expectation your first year, first semester? Are anyone on trimesters or the multi-semester system?
Yeah, we're on quarters, so that's interesting. But I mean, they call it quarters, but it's basically 3. So it just means 10 weeks for each quarter and then finals. So everything moves pretty quick.
Gotcha. Okay.
Did you guys feel prepared for your programs, or behind? Like once you started?
I wish like half the people in my program took your guys' classes. I'm like, please keep up.
Well, that's nice.
Mine is very specific. So like there wasn't a lot of stuff that was like you're doing games quite yet in high school, but then you can kind of build a portfolio out of other things to tell the story that like I have what I have, and I'm able to have you teach me kind of the more specific skill set that's needed.
Yeah,
Regina, you did a good job prepping us for film. But yeah.
Okay, well,
there are so many people that come into their first film class and like have never heard of like Aperture, and it's an interesting concept because I only joined film senior year, so I was close to that, honestly. But like the difference is crazy. And then there's people that have been like, shooting since they were 4 years old, and it's been their passion forever. So there's a big range for sure, especially at the beginning.
It's Loxa kids.
It's Loxa kids. Oh my, they're so high
Dang,
and mighty.
No, but that's you want a diverse group of people, right? That you want to.
Yeah, I was terrified going because I was like, I don't know anything. But then I actually knew more than a lot of people because of your class. So
it felt good. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I felt good. I just knew more than Charlotte. So
okay.
Well, you did have 4 years, Angus. You should have been ahead.
Henry, for SC, do you find that the kids that come into the program is it like 50% film background or film portfolios, or is it fresh kids never touched a camera in their lives? Because at the graduate level, it was 90% no kids with film backgrounds, and only 10% had film backgrounds like myself. So I don't know if that's the case for
Yeah,
you guys.
I think everyone, at least in my program, has some sort of film background, but at least what I've kind of started to notice is a lot of people are kind of burning out a little bit, I think. It's just, like a lot of kids, like they were talking about before, have been like making films since they're like 4 years old or whatever, and they're kind of like it's hard, like it's a lot. So I think you gotta like have fun, and I think it can't be like the job. I don't know, because it's like so hard to even get to this point, So it's like if you just put everything into it at that point, you're like screwed. So I don't know. Everyone's been doing it though, up until this point at my program.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm going to take off in the waiting room. We're going to allow the wave of people to come in. So let's show them our happy faces and start to allow them in starting right now. Admit all. Oh my gosh. Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome. Hi, Katie. We have faculty here, students from various backgrounds. Allison, I owe you an email. Hi, everyone. Cadence here. Great. Justin with the name Jeffrey instead. That's okay. Okay, thank you guys for being here. Right on time. We'll give it another minute. So make sure you guys are comfortable. You will have a chance to have a breakout session with our panelists, and we'll be starting momentarily to talk about how to go about that. And I think what we'll have to do, panelists, is that when we do the breakout rooms, you might have to unmute a person that has a question. Okay. Shall we? Colleagues, guests, students, and panelists, my name is Drew Metz. I'm the director of the Media Arts and Film Labs at Windward School. We'd like to welcome our guests and various communities here in our third-year edition of our panel, Going to School for Multimedia and Film. Here at Windward, in our Visual and Media Arts program, we seek to teach our kids to become forward-thinking artists and meaningful storytellers. We believe that storytelling and art teaches us to become better communicators with more empathy and compassion. Now, whether your passion leads you into the form of game design, animation, or film, storytelling and multimedia communication goes hand in hand. Tonight, you will hear from current students in various programs across the country who have taken the leap into their passions and dreams to pursue the art of multimedia storytelling and design. Now, film and multimedia programs may not be for everyone, and I've said this before, I said this last year. Culturally, we often hear arguments for why one should or should not go to school for the arts. Yet many of us here and your mentors can tell you that going to school to learn how to tell stories and to create is the most fun you will ever have getting a degree. And in this age of technology and social media and storytelling, media literacy and multimedia creation is more prevalent and more relevant than ever before. Our hope tonight is that our students will offer you their candid, honest, and passionate responses to their personal experiences in their programs, and perhaps why they believe or how they believe this next generation of storytellers can prepare for their journey and to choose what's right for them. We're going to begin with a brief introduction of our panel and a few key questions. And then at around the midpoint of this panel story, we're going to break out into moderated sessions for our guests to explore and ask direct questions. So students, storytellers, and filmmakers, we'd like you now to, in any order you choose, introduce yourself, your university, your degree program, and follow up with answering this question, which is, what does a day of your life look like in your program? Who would like to start first? We'll have to sacrifice one of you. Henry, fight on. The Trojans always lead first.
Yep. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Henry Roth. I'm a sophomore at USC. I'm in film and television production. And I guess, well, my schedule is kind of interesting because I have days where I have class from like 9 a.m. till 6, and then I'll have days I don't really have class. But those days I don't have class, I'm doing work for the days I do have class. So I would say my normal days, I wake up around like 8 and I'm working probably sporadically throughout most of the day if I don't have class. But if I do have class, I have 2 classes that are 3 hours long, and then I'm done for the day.
Great. Waking up at 8. Okay. Not bad.
Maybe that's not that true. I don't know. Maybe it's like 9.
That sounds right, Henry. Okay, was that
Yeah, it's yeah, my name's Angus. I'm a sophomore at NYU. I'm doing film and television production. And it's similar to Henry. Charlotte and I have some days where we have classes from 9 to 6, and other days where we just have kind of like normal classes. My schedule is a little interesting because I'm also playing sports here. So a lot of my evenings and weekends are taken up with that. But yeah, it really schedules vary a lot, but I think a common thing is like the production classes at NYU usually last like a full day. It's like a full work day, and then they alternate days. So every day that you don't have, like a 9 to 5 production class, you'll have your gen eds or your craft classes or writing classes or other miscellaneous classes.
And your first year, you have to do general education while the film program. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it each semester you're recommended to take one gen ed, which allocates as like not a film class basically. But your freshman year, there's a handful of required classes that you're supposed to take. But then sophomore year, moving on, you kind of get to pick and choose how you want to fill your credit requirements.
Great.
I don't know if Charlotte wants to elaborate.
Charlotte, please.
Oh my God, what a segue. Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm also a sophomore at NYU Tisch studying film and TV production. Yeah, I think like Angus said, we have classes that are 9 hours long. So those days you're pretty busy. And then something that I didn't like process is when Windward switched to the block schedule, I was like, wow, these classes are so long, an hour and 15 minutes. Now all my shortest class is 3 hours long. All of the classes are 3 hours long, even if they don't need to be. That is just like a feature of school for sure. And then also outside of classes, my days usually consist of calling Angus at least once because everyone's working on projects outside of class for the most part. If you are there, you have access to equipment, all of this. I'm always working like 4 things outside of class, and that's how I fill any time that I have left from my classes. So yeah, I like to stay busy.
Thank you, Charlotte. Will Andrews.
Hi, my name is Will. I'm a freshman at NYU Tisch studying dramatic writing, so screenwriting, but I'm also interested in writing for television, and I have classes where I'm writing plays right now, so please ask me any question about any type of dramatic writing. And then to answer your question about like a day-to-day life, like everyone's already touched on, it kind of depends on the day. Every day is different based on my schedule, but I generally more productive in the morning, so I tried to make more of my classes in the morning, and then after that it's about going to the park, getting a coffee, just trying to find some greenery in a city of concrete. So
Love the poetry there. Okay. How about Brian? Well, Andreas beat you to it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andreas Mikalopoulos. I am a junior at UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television. I'm concentrating in directing. Our official degree is a Bachelor of Arts in Film, Television, and Digital Media. So there's kind of a range of different subjects that you could focus on based on what you're into. A typical day for me, I'll just run you through today for me. I had a production class at 9, which was 3 hours. Today was a slower day for it. Last week, we were actually shooting in the class. Today, we were going over the second drafts of the scripts for our final projects and then like our mood boards for them. And then immediately after that, I had a class that was overview of contemporary film industry. And so it was, it's probably one of my favorite ones I've taken so far, because rather than, you know, history and this, which I've kind of heard a couple of times, it's focusing more on what's actually going on right now. And then up until this meeting, I was working on a feature script for a class also that I need to turn in soon.
Awesome, Andres. Brian, you're back.
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm in film and TV, but specifically animation. Animation is part of film and TV, so I'll be graduating with a film degree, but it's nice because you can take as many or as little animation classes as you want. In my case, many. I didn't have usual today because I turned in my final animated project today, so I've been definitely crunching on that for the past few days of spending, 5 or 6 hours in the animation lab finishing that up. But yeah, a normal day is going to either a long block animation class where I spend 6 hours with my animation teacher and my peers working on that, or those smaller storytelling or writing classes for film.
Awesome. One thing you have to think about too, community, is that sometimes a film program is not necessarily specialized in directing or animation, but is more broader. So think about the programs you're investigating, the questions we ask some of our panelists. Are they leaning into a specific track of study, or is it more broad or more niche, depending on what you're interested in? Thank you. Hudson or Maria Hoffman?
Sure, I can go next. Hi, I'm Hudson. I am a freshman at NYU Tisch studying game design. So a little bit different than the film kids, a little bit different than the writing kids. My focus is on game writing and narrative design. And a typical, I would say, to preface before I get into what a typical day looks like, game design is a program that is all based on prereqs. So in order to take any class later on, you have to have a prereq in pretty much every area of the field. So as a freshman, you have to take a little bit of coding, a little bit of studies, a little bit of kind of games culture, a little bit of game design, and all these kind of different things, just so you have a really good baseline for everything. So a lot of my schedule last semester was back-to-back classes of I'm designing things, I'm playing things, I'm talking about games, I'm writing about games. Super fun, super all great. This semester is a lot more academic. I'm in my normal Monday, Wednesday schedule is class from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Back to back with no breaks. A lot of that is lecture-based classes where you're kind of sitting there and just taking in information, and most of that this semester has been really based on the academic study of games and the world in which they exist in. And then some other project-based stuff that is for most of my classes is what takes up most of my other free time.
Incredible. Thank you, Hudson. Maria.
Yeah, hi, my name is Maria Hoffman. I'm a sophomore at Boston University studying film and television. Here at BU, we don't have concentration, so you can take as many or as little production or screenwriting or film management classes. So it's kind of choose your own route. But a day in the life for me, at least today, we have our gen ed. So I woke up and I had a religion course in the morning, then documentary production. And then I had a 3-hour screenwriting course this evening. So both days switch off. So today is less heavy on production side, but then Wednesdays and Fridays, I have cinematography where I'm in the studio. So I'd say BU students are generally in the studio or on set probably 2 to 3 times a week. So it's just constant helping people out. So you're really kind of taking more courses than you sign up for. If you have friends in other classes, you're just constantly in the studio. So that's how I am.
That's great, Maria. From just reactions hearing you guys speak, how fun does all this sound? There's a reason why I went to film school 3 times, because it's that much fun. Don't ask why, I just was obsessed with it. Thank you, panelists. That's wonderful. So now we'd love to hear from maybe one from each program or each school. If you feel compassion, or if you feel a passion to respond to this question, by all means. A lot of our students in our program, and of course that are considering film school, always want to know, what can they do to prepare for your program? Are there tips to better prepare their applications or portfolios or things you wish you had done better. But ultimately, how can they prepare for either the program itself, whether they get in or not, or their portfolio? Speak to either of those. That's fine. Who can help us out? Henry.
So yeah, I go to USC, just to remind everybody. A recommendation I guess I would have, and it was kind of like a surprise for me when I got to USC, was for our first year, we didn't touch a camera. Like we used an iPhone, was like the closest we got to using a camera, which is my second semester. First semester was a lot of like film history and just like learning the basics. So they kind of take the approach of like you got in and then they like you all start back at zero and they just reteach you everything. And I'd say like what the purpose of that, at least what it seems like, is that they want us to understand how to like correctly tell a story. You know, like it doesn't matter if you're using like the nicest camera in the world or an iPhone. Like if you tell a good story, it's a great story, you know? So I think that is like the main thing that I've learned so far, is that it's not as much like technical stuff, and it's become more technical as I've gone on, but the basics are like just storytelling. So I think, reading, writing, just making stuff, like finding things that interest you. I don't know, just whatever, like learning good stories or watching movies, like all of it, like nothing can hurt.
Right. It's great advice.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off Henry, it's similar. Freshman year at NYU, it's basically all of your classes other than your gen eds are chosen for you. You're split up into 2 semesters. There's a audio semester and a video semester. Yeah, so everyone takes the same classes, everyone starts at the same point, which I think is helpful because everyone gets the same kind of baseline education. But I think it can sometimes, for some people, especially coming out of Regina's program, which I think over prepared us, so we're repeating a lot of information, which can be frustrating, but everyone kind of gets the same experience, which I think is very valuable. So yeah, I mean, I think the recommendation I would give is just be passionate about it and try to like kind of foster and nurture like the love and care for while you're going to school. Because I think, a lot of kids get burnt out by, committing to too many things and overworking themselves and trying to, I guess, compare themselves to other students. And I think a lot of kids kind of miss the essence of why you're going to an art school, which is to, enjoy the art and appreciate it. So that would be my little advice, I guess.
It's great. The spirit of that is great. Thank you, Angus.
I also think adding to that, especially in NYU freshman year, no matter what you're prepared for and what you want to do, make sure that you don't have your mind set on one specific thing that you want to do. I think a lot of people enter being like, I mean, there's the stereotypical, oh, I want to be a director, but I knew people who are like, oh, I want to be a gaffer or something more specific, a creative director, and that you might have already been exposed to a lot of stuff, but you will be exposed to new stuff. So don't discount any new like avenues that open to you just because it's not what you had your mindset on, because that's sort of a waste of the resources.
That's terrific, Brian. Going to school for multimedia or film is a great way to find out what you really like and what you really dislike. It is a playground for that and for you guys to make mistakes and to try things. Great advice. Hudson.
I think kind of piggybacking off of some of what people have said, media literacy is really like super key, especially outside of just your medium. Like it is good to have games literacy to be in games, but it's also good to kind of know music, know different artists, both contemporary and historical. It's good to really have a broad understanding of different artistic mediums and things like that, just because you never know when you might need to pull a reference from something. And some of the best work and the most interesting work that I've been a part of this year, and also am currently working on or plan to work on in the future, are where you bring in other interests outside. NYU especially really pushes the idea of the medium as an art first and then as a consumer product, which I know is a little bit different from how some other programs view it. And I think that because of that, it's really important that you prioritize like what creatively motivates you and what other things inspire you before you worry about like, how do I make something that people will like or will be successful?
That's great advice. Leaning into what you're genuinely passionate about, not about what you think will be successful in other people's eyes, is something you guys should always think about and remember. Wonderful.
Just like a really quick side note of that, it's an example, is I left Regina's class thinking I wanted to be a cinematographer and a gaffer because I loved lighting and I loved cameras, and now I am a producer, which is kind of on the complete other side of the spectrum. But I discovered that there can be I can still be a part of film and also get to like play with spreadsheets, which is like something I never would have imagined that I wanted to do. But now that I've done it, I'm like, this is perfect. So yeah, you meet people. I went and I wanted to be a cinematographer, and then I met people who like actually wanted to be cinematographers. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be a cinematographer like you want to be a cinematographer. One of my roommates, he could talk about like cameras and the science behind the lenses and the mirrors forever, and I'll lose my mind. So
terrific. The growth and change that you guys experience in a year of any conservatory or multimedia program is always dramatic. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Or does anyone want to talk about the hard materials? For example, how early should students prepare their portfolios and their submissions for these programs? Did anyone start a year in advance? Did anyone start 6 months in advance? These are some things that come up in the MAFL. How early should students start preparing their application and supplemental materials? Maria.
Okay, so at BU, it's actually a portfolio is optional, which is good for some, and it's really frustrating in other classes. But I'd say even though it's optional, most of my friends who got in did submit a portfolio, so that's important. But I'd say having something you're proud of to show, like I'd say the clubs at BU are extremely competitive and they all require portfolios. So it's one thing getting into the school, but getting into the clubs, it's like an even lower acceptance rate. So I would just say, if you don't like writing, write an outline, have something to pitch for people to make them want to have you as a part of their team. Because a lot of freshmen come in and it's like deer in the headlights. They're like, high school's one thing, and then college, it's all of a sudden you're competing against 100 people who are the same as you on paper. So if you have something that sets you apart, even if it's on an iPhone, anything, just the fact that you're going out there and taking the time to tell your story shows a lot of initiative that a lot of students don't do.
That's amazing, Maria, and a lot of courage. These students know that you have to have a lot of bravery and courage to go, I'm going to go to school to learn arts, and I'm going to do it because I'm passionate about it. But there is something to say that if you are doing what you love, is that not successful? Is that not going to lead to happiness? So there's a lot to argue there, but there's quite a bit of bravery for choosing the programs that you guys have each chosen. Maybe Andreas or anyone else or could talk about portfolio requirements, prepping, or preparing for the day-to-day life in your program.
Yeah, so one interesting thing about UCLA is that I believe it is one of the few programs that doesn't actually require a video component to the submission. For the application, they really prioritize, they do want some sort of like script sample or writing, and then creative statements of some sort, but you can tell that they prioritize your creative vision, and they're more like, they'll worry about having you be able to translate that later on. But it's more like they're looking for people who have just the ability to express a vision in some way. So the only other thing I would recommend for students preparing to come in would be to come in with ideas, because I mentioned this earlier when we were prepping for this, is that UCLA is on the quarter system. And so this means the quarters go pretty quick. So like when you're in a production class, there isn't a whole lot of time to develop an idea. And so it's good to just start thinking of what stories are you trying to tell? What stories could you tell in the future? And then when it's time to go, just jump into action. You have people around you who have the talents to help you out on that, and you can get to work.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm glad you're raising your hand, because I'd love to know about, since you did so much creative exploration at Windward, what did you have to do to prepare for your portfolio, and what was that application process like, and anything else you can add?
Yeah, the games requirements when you're applying to NYU's game program is a hefty one. You need to have a portfolio of different works. as well as you have to write 6 essays that basically are there to prove that you not only care a lot about games and actually like are passionate about making them, but that you kind of have the scholarly aspect that, because NYU is like a research institution, they really want to know that you are interested in studying and understanding what works in games from a scholarly perspective first. So a lot of that is like talk about one thing that you enjoy about a specific game that not anyone else might. And so then that essay is not looking for you to say like, oh, I really like how it feels when you like do the parkour in this one game or the art style in this other one. It's saying like, oh, this one element of the game really does this for the player, or it does this for the mechanics or the game feel or things like that. So like the essays are very much like kind of, I don't want to say coded, but like they are, here's what I'm asking, and then what they're really asking is like, show me that you've got that kind of like extra layer of depth when it comes to the scholarly side. For the portfolio, I obviously had no like specific games that I had made. I hadn't taken any of the comp sci classes at Windward. I had really been the kid who was like in theater, in a film class, AP art, photography, creative writing was a big one for me. Brendan Constantine, my favorite teacher ever. But and so because of that, when it came to making my portfolio, it was really how do I mix all of these things and show them that like I have the creative vision to do this really mixed media medium. So I believe I included some photography samples. I think I had a poem in my portfolio. And then my big portfolio piece that I always say is the kind of like thing that got me in was I took some creative writing that I did for a like fictional world. I built a world essentially, and I built it out into a database using an online site. And so it basically became this explorable database that had a map that you could click through, and it had different locations, it had characters, it had lore and history, and like all the things that you would need to hand to a development team to have them say like, oh yeah, let's code this and turn it into a game. So really that was me trying to innovate a way to show them that I had the ability to tell a story and kind of mix my passions together into something that they would want. And then I talked to some of the professors who looked at that portfolio, and they were like, yeah, you showed us that you know how to tell a story and that you care a lot about this kind of world building side of it. And then we knew that we could teach you how to code. So don't worry about if you have like a shortcoming in your mind of, oh, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that. They're prepared for that. They just want to know that you've got both the energy and the kind of mindset for them to mold.
That's terrific. Will, and then Brian.
So the portfolio for dramatic writing, if they haven't changed it since I applied, is 15 to 25 pages of any like, and that's a combined amount of pages, so that can be split up from 3 different works, or it could be one long 25-page screenplay or whatever. And you can start that whenever you want in terms of, I know Drew, you just asked like when should people start thinking about putting together a portfolio. You can start when you want. I mean, I think Windward does underplay how hard and how academically strenuous the first semester of senior year is. So when you're trying to put together these applications, so in that way, I would say the earlier the better. But in terms of inspiration for writing this kind of stuff, the biggest advice I can give anybody for a portfolio is just to read. I grew up in a household where like reading was really hammered into us, and like, I mean, I just think any type of reading, whether that be reading a screenplay or just like reading an article about a movie that's going to be produced, or reading an article that reviews a movie, just any type of reading a novel, like that's what improves your writing, and that's what ultimately makes you want to write. So yeah.
I just want to quickly jump on that. I'm currently an alumni reader for dramatic writing portfolios. So I read probably 10 to 15 dramatic writing portfolio submissions a year. So if you are specifically interested in that program, please come talk to me. I can talk a little more about sort of what we're looking for and even what the sort of rubric system is.
Incredible. Great connections there. Okay, let's go Brian and to Henry.
So for me, I started looking the summer before the admissions were due. And when I was like preparing this, I saw the requirements for the video, and I knew I wanted to make some sort of 3D animation, since that's what I was applying with. And I figured out what I wanted to do, and I talked to my parents, and I was like, hey, I know you want me to get a summer job. I know we're in a place where it's going to be fine for me to not have one. Can I treat an animation for my portfolio like a summer job? And I'll schedule it out, and I'll put the hours in, and I'll make, spreadsheet, figure out a shot sheet, all that kind of stuff. And both that was good because then I got an animation that had the man hours to be really good since animation takes so many man hours. But also then by the time I was applying, I knew 100% for sure that if I was going to discover I hated waking up and animating every day, that I would discover that before I got in. So I think that obviously that's a case specific choice, but I think that setting yourself a specific task for your application in that way can be really helpful because you can figure out exactly how you react to the art and you can make something that's tailored that like starting that early and setting yourself those kind of goals works. I also think for NYU specifically, looking at the writing portfolio for film, just doing stuff that obviously the whole goal of applications is to stand out, but I think sometimes strategically thinking about that can work really well. I know my year there were two writing prompts. One was if you could time travel anywhere, where would you time travel to and why? And then the other one was unravel a knot you see in the world. And one of those jumps out at you more. And everyone I've talked to in my program, and I'm sure people got in with the other one, but everyone I've talked to answered unravel a knot. And I think that the time travel one jumps out more, but unravel a knot has so much more creative potential than the time travel one, because there are a lot of good answers to the time travel one, but like figuring out what maybe one jumps out at you more, but what are the best answers going to come from? Not like what's the gut feeling, oh, this can be funny.
That sounds really fun. I think us faculty should try that as a challenge, write a little time travel story. How exciting is it? I think you guys should look at this portfolio opportunity and this application as something creatively fun. And the sooner you start it and the more feedback you get from your mentors and parents, you can make it far more enjoyable. So this is great. Henry, what do you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what everyone was kind of saying. I mean, from my own experience, USC's portfolio is it's like a little bit of kind of maybe what everyone's been saying. Like we have a video element, and then we have like you have to like talk to the camera also, like plus your short film, and then you have to also pitch like a hypothetical TV show or movie that's like I don't know how many pages. And then it's just kind of like your basic college application stuff. It's like what's your favorite color, like all these random things which like are supposed to kind of figure out a little bit about you. But I think the important part about all of it, and like I suck at this, but I would recommend this for like anyone who wants to be any sort of creative is like don't wait for assignments. Don't be like, oh, I have this assignment due, so I'm gonna like start doing it. Just like always be making things like if you have an idea, write it down. Like there's never like it's never too early to start making an idea, like because like it's gonna suck in the beginning, but like you're gonna keep doing it, keep getting better. Like no one's gonna you're not gonna make a short film and like be incredible. Like you're gonna make a shitty short film, and then you're gonna make another short film that's a little better, and then you're gonna just keep making them until they get better. So I just say like always make stuff. Don't wait for like these portfolio these like schools to ask for you to do things. Just like always create.
It's so true. Always be creating. Even in his 80s, both Akira Kurosawa and John Ford were making short films and feature films. So you are always growing with your craft if you're creating. I saw a hand from Angus.
Yeah, just to kind of echo what Henry was talking about always be thinking about things. Something that I wish I had done more of is just write down any ideas that you have for any sort of creative endeavor. For me, it was films or scripts, but games or novels or anything. I actually just emailed Regina the other week asking if she had access to some, throwaway idea I had in one of her classes, and I was thinking back on it and I was like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting, with the perspective I have now. So, it doesn't need to be the greatest thing you've ever thought of. It just needs to be something. And you'll be surprised how often, when you're sitting there with an assignment due, trying to think of something, how helpful it is to have just like a notes app or a voice memos full of random ideas. And even if you don't end up using any of those ideas, just it'll spark something else, or it'll kind of get your creative gears flowing. And then in terms of the application for NYU, we had I submitted a film, and then there was other supplementary short writings, and the one that I think I see Charlotte smiling because I know she knows what I'm about to say. The one that was most memorable by far was the "Tell us about your selfie." That's how they kind of phrased it. And it's essentially a video about yourself that you record of yourself. And for people that want to be behind the camera, being in front of the camera is kind of the worst. And I think that was probably the most challenging aspect, was just like, filming myself and being comfortable talking to, some anonymous admissions person and
Drop the link
trying
in the
to,
chat to yours as an example.
nope,
It
never seen
worked.
the
You
light
got
of day.
in.
Absolutely
got
not.
in. It worked.
Thanks though. Yeah, no, so I think that was definitely challenging, and trying to be authentic, because I think, authenticity and passion is like a universal language, and people can tell when you're trying to tell them what they want to hear. And so I think it's probably a good indicator that I don't want to show mine, because I don't, it was personal to me. And I think, yeah, I don't know. I think making something personal, kind of, that's the best thing you can do when they're trying to get to know you, and they're trying to get to know who you are as a person and an artist.
Beautifully put. If anything, you guys can take from this panel so far, that passion moves mountains, and you have to be passionate at the very least, whether it's your application, your portfolio, or being in the program. You have to be passionate, and you will find that in any of these programs. Excellent. Okay, any other oversights or thoughts that we want to add to this? Okay. We're also getting a lot of great questions, so please send them directly to us. We'll try to air out a couple before we're gonna have to pivot in a second to the breakouts, but I do want one question that Regina and Colleen and I were talking about that maybe would be helpful for some of our community, which is, we want you to think about, each of you guys, and not everyone has to answer, but you can, share with us a challenge you've experienced in your program and what you learned from it. You guys know how hard working you were in your high school careers and at Windward. And I'm sure this experience at your program is a whole different animal, but think of a challenge you experienced in your program and tell us what you learned from it. Anyone wants to jump in? Charlotte's back. Oh, everyone's got challenges. Okay.
Yeah, a couple things leap to mind, but I think the one, I'll talk about something more recent that I've had happen that I think has taught me quite a bit, is it is so awesome to be excited and passionate about doing every single thing you can, but you also need to learn how to say no to projects, because I found myself this semester specifically spread a bit too thin because I just was so excited about like helping everyone with everything all the time, and then I had no time to do it all well, and then I was just really stressed out the whole semester because I felt like I was falling behind on everything instead of doing really well on a couple things I cared a lot about. And I think that's just like been a really important lesson to me, especially like once you start to specialize and people start to hear your name as like someone who's good at this. So then everyone, people you've never met are DMing you on Instagram, like reaching out and asking you for this. And you're so honored that they thought of you that you're like, oh my God, I'd love to. And then suddenly you're working on like 10 projects at once and you have no time. And so I think the something I've learned, I actually didn't solve the problem. I just simply muscled through and now the semester's over, but I will never do it again. And I think that's what I've learned from it is, I guess this kind of goes back to what Drew was saying about be passionate about everything you work on. As someone who's worked on projects that I care about so much, and it is so, I just am so excited to talk about it and to go on about it. And then I've also worked on projects that are like kind of the bane of my existence because I don't really care about the project personally, or the people I'm working with aren't people I really want to be working with. And it's just like such a difference. It's so just really, I don't know, follow your heart, but in a less cheesy way than what I just said.
If we learned anything from Disney or Charlotte, follow your heart. Charlotte, that's terrific. Thank you for that. Did Henry have a hand up, or by all means jump in too, guys. It's fine.
I think a challenge I had was like last semester. Yeah, it was the end of last semester. We have like the way that class was built up. It's called 290. We were like building towards this like last film at the end of the semester, and we had to like pitch ourselves to be the directors, and like it was like the first time we kind of were like actually being like judged by our peers a little bit. It was like we were putting the crews together or whatever. Within like the classes, it wasn't outside of class. It was like in this academic setting or whatever. So you really wanted to like do a good job. And I luckily ended up being a director, but we did a horrible job on the film. It like was really bad. But I think the lesson from that is like there's always another film. Like there's always going to be another thing, and even if you mess up in some way, like you're going to learn and you're going to do even better on the next thing. So I don't know, like get excited, but also don't put your entire like being on the line for something because like there's got to be another thing. So it's like just keep moving forward.
Excellent.
Yeah. I think that kind of piggybacking off of that, a really important thing to learn as early as you can is scope. It's really easy to get into something and be really excited and be like, it's gonna be huge, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that, and we're gonna have crazy art, and it's gonna be amazing. We're gonna play test and do all this, and then all of a sudden you have a day left and it's 1 a.m. or it's 4 a.m. and you're sitting in your room with everyone you ever knew and you're all cutting out little pieces for a board game and you're basically tearing out your hair and you hate everything, and then you like die for a few days. And that was my first project first semester, and I learned a lot from that to never do it again. So definitely learn scope. That is a really big first thing to make sure you know. Brian was there for a lot of that, so he knows. But the other thing that's also really important to learn is that creative work is super collaborative. It's the same in film, it's the same in games, it's the same in pretty much any major like this. Knowing people and just like not knowing people to know them for their skill, but to know them for who they are is really important. Making like lunch with someone just to kind of get to know who they are as a human being means a lot more to them than like, hey, I want to work on this project with you, because then they want to work on projects with you and they'll ask to be in your network and they'll ask to keep doing that. And you kind of start to build out a much healthier collaborative web. And I was able to go to a networking convention and do that a lot. And you can tell when someone is wanting to be in your world, when you want to know them for them a little more than you want to know them for their title or their skill set. So it's just important to not get lost in the like, I need this person for this thing, or I need to be able to do this thing, and just like know that everyone's in the world and you need the allies, you need the people that you can, because that's kind of what everyone's doing.
A lot of sage advice there. It is important to not only be a good person, but to be a good person to work with. It's going to pay off so much more than we realize. I think maybe Will and then Maria. Can we do it like that?
So going back to what Angus said about how the people behind the camera never want to be in front of it, it is required in dramatic writing that your freshman year, both semesters, you take like a stage acting class. So that has been like especially the first semester, which really emphasizes improv. It's like that can be daunting on a Thursday at 9 a.m. to get up and play improv games, but especially as a writer who never has to experience that ever. But I think that it's taught me, first off, it's taught me a lot of empathy for actors who, for the most part, sometimes I can't stand. My roommate's an actor, but at the same time, you also learn a lot about how to, like, it's also really helpful for learning how to write, is like being the one that has to perform the lines. So it's really helpful.
Legendary young Will. Maria?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges I've faced is working with difficult people. I'm sure all the other film kids here can agree with me when I say there are a lot of big egos on a film set. A lot of people think they know everything and they get really mad if you rub them the wrong way. From that, I've dealt with a lot of sexist comments, which is not good. And it's like, basically what I've learned from this is it's not worth, if someone's talented and they're a great DP or they're a great gaffer, but they're just not hardworking or a good person to be around, it's better to just have a friend do it. Like it's not worth it, because if the energy on set is down, then the whole day no one wants to be there. So it's really just find the people that are loyal to you and hardworking and will stick it out with you and will do overnight shoots and all that good stuff without just being a rude person. It is hard to find, unfortunately, but it exists.
Maria, thank you for naming that. And it's important to recognize, especially in the film industry, it is traditionally an old boys club. And there is a lot of prejudice in the business and in the business of storytelling. And that's why what you guys do as storytellers and in this generation is really important, because you are the next generation. And as we've kind of foreshadowed, being a good person matters, being passionate matters, speaking up and protecting each other and being loyal matters. And these qualities will come back, and you will be asked to demonstrate them. Excellent. Anyone else want to add to this? Okay. My colleagues, Regina, Colleen, Tiro, should we go for, we have a lot of questions I personally got. Do you want to pivot into the breakout rooms, or should we try to, I'm seeing thumbs up. All right, Tiro's thumbs up. Colleen? Okay, I'm gonna thumbs down. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. We're gonna allow the participants to unmute themselves, and thank you for the people that sent us direct questions. What questions we don't get to tonight, we can follow up with the panelists, and if they are willing to share their emails with the parents and the community, that would be helpful too. And we're really grateful for you guys being candid and being upfront and being terrific communicators and participants. So we are going to have, in this room that we're currently in, and of course you're not required to join any of these rooms, but it will be fun, and we will go till 8:15 sharp, and then we have to pull the plug. So in this room, it will be USC, UCLA, and BU. So you don't have to go anywhere. And we will have another room for NYU Film and Screenwriting, and Regina will be in there moderating that. And Colleen will be in another room for animation and game design with Hudson and Brian. And you guys can pop around these breakout rooms and allow yourselves just to ask your question. If you don't get a chance to ask it, send it to us and we will get the answer for you. Thumbs up if that sounds good. For USC. Like, I let Henry get away? No way. And we have Maria and Andreas. Okay. I wanted to, and Maria, you set this up wonderfully, and thank you for calling things as it is. This is an industry that has the best and the worst of everything and everyone. And we have the most passionate people in the world, all in one business. I want to ask you guys, before anyone else may ask a question, you can jump in if you guys want to. You can write it in the chat now. How much does it matter being a good person and your reputation in your programs? Does that actually matter? Have you noticed that it matters? Does anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, 100%. I think that was one of my realizations going from high school to college, was that high school you had like this little group of people who had a similar interest, the same interest as you as film. So it's like, all right, these are my people, these are good. But then you get to the bigger levels and, hopefully after college too, and you see that like there's a lot of people who all want to do the same thing of film. And so if you're all around the same level of talent, like what's really going to separate you and why certain people want to call you back or work together is going to be those relationships that you form and, how good of a person you are. So I think that was a big realization for me of just like, okay, I have a choice now. Would I rather work with someone like this, or would I rather work with, so on.
That's great, Andreas. Appreciate it. And very, very true. Henry or Maria, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add on to that. I completely agree with everything that was said. I think first off, like if you go to any of these great schools, there's gonna be people who are obviously like more talented than you. Like that's the reality, is there's gonna be a lot of talented people, but just because they're more talented doesn't mean they're better or anything. Like people also want to work with like cool, nice people, and like people also want to work with their friends. So I'd say just be a good person and like be nice to everybody. I mean, it took me a long time to like get used to that, because I'm not like I don't know. It's not always easy to like make small talk or talk to people you don't want to talk to necessarily, but like everyone in these majors is into the same thing you're into, and it's also like everyone's a nice person if you just like give them the time of day. So I don't know, be nice, have fun, and like that's, people will want to work with you if you're a good person.
Very well put. Maria, what do you think? Is there anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, if you're hardworking and nice, you're gonna get on more and more sets. Especially freshman year, since it seems similar in most programs where you don't get as much hands-on action with the equipment. Your best bet is to make friends with upperclassmen or to join clubs. And it's just starting, and if you PA for one set, then the next set you're gonna gap, and then the next set you're gonna first AC, and you keep moving up because you have this reputation that people are talking about you. And like even some of my friends that I have on set, I've like one of my friends, he gaffs, he's in the business school. He's not even a film kid, but he did film in high school and he's a hard worker. And I'd rather have him there than someone who, is just like all talk. So it goes a long way to be a good person.
Life lessons, and you can learn it in film school, you can learn it in life, but it is a great place because you experience a lot of different personalities, as we talked about. Thank you for that, Maria. So I have two questions that I think are solid. One's directly about USC. Allison, I could ask your question for you unless you want to tailor it.
About the double majors?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're actually on our way to go pick up Aiden now.
It is one of our protege film students, by the way, just so you guys know, one of our best in Windward's program right now. So
he's in 10th, but he's already looking forward to film school, but he's also interested in music. And so he's wondering if any of you double or know anyone that's doubling. I know film is a major commitment that takes up, most of your time, but is it possible to major in an additional thing that takes up a lot of time? Or not really?
Did you guys ever consider it? Has any of your colleagues tried it to double major or do two programs? Any thoughts?
I can add on. I have a friend he's not a music major, but he's a music minor. So he's able to still do that. And he scores my films for me. So like he's able to also keep flexing that muscle, I mean, I to be honest with you, I don't know if I've heard of double majors specifically at USC, but I do know like minors and other things. And like I have looked at minoring and some other stuff. It's very possible. I just don't know about like doing a double major.
Great.
Yeah, to add on to that, I think the the minor route seems to be a lot more common. I personally didn't because I'm actually a transfer student. So because of that, like it took up a bit more, or it's taking up a bit more time right now, where it seems like I'll only be able to get the one. But I know a lot of people who have like overlap between theater, film, or music and film. So if you want it, like I think at most of the schools, like you can get in those circles and get represented and get in there.
Great. And schools have different vibes too. Some programs are more intense and more conservatory like, and some are more mixed bag. Maybe Maria can speak to that too, or her experience so far.
Yeah, at BU, the majority of film majors are double majors. A lot of them do film and PR or advertising, so it's still in the College of Communication. I have a friend who, for whatever reason, is a double major in film and computer science. So you can really do whatever. That's only because since it's not, you don't choose a concentration, you just have to complete the amount of credits. So if you don't want to do as many production courses, since those are more time consuming, and if you just want to do screenwriting, you could definitely do two. I even have a friend, she's a double major in sociology, and then she has a minor in public relations. So at BU, a lot of people, it's because it's so expensive, we say we want to get our money's worth and get as many things on our resume and diploma as possible. Personally, I'm not double majoring or anything because I'm planning to study abroad twice. So with study abroad, it's hard to transfer credits over. So if that's something someone would want to do, then that's more of like a case by case thing. But yeah, a lot of kids here are double major.
Excellent. When I went to Cal State Long Beach for film, I was minoring in Italian, and I got to a point where I thought, I don't want to divide any more time from anything else but filmmaking. And then even when I went to UCLA, I did the professional program screenwriting for 1 year. Same thing. I was working full time as a contractor, writing, directing. I thought, oh, too many things. It goes back to what Maria and probably Charlotte had both spoken to. Being spread too thin may not make the experience as enjoyable as opposed to being whole hog, if you will. I was so busy at SC, and I tell Henry this all the time, I didn't go to one football game in 3.5 years. That's how hard I worked. I went to basketball games, I went to baseball games, but I couldn't go to a single football game. So I think about, not wanting a student to burn out in their experience, and also having a sense of culture and get to hang out. too rigorous programs may not allow for that. But, you know, also the kids and some of our colleagues are always nervous about, what about grad school, you know, or is it worth exploring a degree and then doing a different degree? My mind is that there's no rush if a student is passionate and this is what they really love. So I have a question from Kat, another one of our protege students, and I just sent a message to the whole group here. Kat asks, this is for Henry. So shocker that students are using their iPhones. Year one at USC, the top dog film school, you guys are using your iPhones? It sounds crazy. So are people, let's see if I can truncate the question. Are people still having outside of class film sets? Do they have time for that? Are they still producing films outside of the current curriculum? Or is this the way the first year is, that everyone's just producing with the iPhone and staying locked into their track and not doing anything else until year two?
Okay. So it's specifically about like the first year, the question. I just want to, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mixed bag a little bit based on like just kind of who you are. Personally for myself, I like was on a few sets, but like compared to a lot of other people, I was like not doing too many, to be honest with you. Like I know I have like good friends who like every weekend they were doing some on a set or something. And for me, that was just like adjusting to college and like getting my social life and everything. Like I just had some other stuff I wanted to figure out before I kind of like dove into my major. But to answer the question, yeah, you can do it totally. Like it's not the first semester, the first year, like you could like do your iPhone films and you can go make films, but they're not going to provide you equipment. That's the only thing. Like the way at USC, and I'm sure a lot of other schools, is like as you progress in classes, like you start like unlocking new equipment you can rent. Kind of like we just got new, like now that I'm like basically a junior now, like I have like some finals, like now I get to use the new Sony, which I'm excited about. So it's like we get to just slowly use new cameras and things. So, but you can like if you want to make stuff, they're not going to stop you. That's like the main thing.
Great. And how about the social life? Do you guys feel like you've been able to do things socially in your programs? Andreas, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can find, it takes a moment, but to find like that work-life balance and the split between it, it can be found. And then I think there is something like really encouraging about having people who become your friends who have like similar interests. And I think that's awesome, is that you can have moments where you guys are locked in on a project, but then there's just moments that's like, you know, hanging out and all that. So I think it can be found.
Great. Maria, by the way, just for the record, I noticed the Napoleon Dynamite poster in the back, a magnum opus in the pantheon of films. So I'm glad not only you pretty much have a Citizen Kane type poster in the background. I'm happy to see that. Have you been able to have a social life as well, Maria, in your program?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, BU is very work hard, play hard. So frat night starts on Thursday, it goes to Sunday, sometimes Monday. Like these kids know how to party for sure. I don't partake in that too much, but I feel like since I mean everyone says Boston's a college town, which like I always thought was stupid, but it's so true. Like we have like I feel like I'm at Emerson and Harvard a lot. Those kids are working on sets with us too. So you're like meeting people from everywhere. It's nice because it's like it's a big city, but at the same time I run into people almost every time I go into town. Um so yeah, I feel like just making little connections like that, but otherwise I really just am on set or go to the movies.
That's great. That's great. This is a question I have that it's actually a kid in my current film class, and they're very talented. They are the original. They won the pitch in the class of 22 students, and so we pitched a bunch of films. They got the pitch. They're the screenwriter and the executive producer. This is a question that happens a lot, and I wonder if you guys have thought about it. Have you ever considered? Has anyone ever told you, why to go to film school when you could just spend 4 years in the industry? Why don't you just go into the industry or work in real life and then figure it out from there? I've had this question asked to me my whole career. Have you guys ever consider that, or what was part of your decision making and saying, no, I want to do this. I want to go to school for film.
I'll jump in, I guess. I mean, that's like the age-old question, I guess. I don't think anyone knows the answer to that. I don't know, at least for me, I was gonna always go to college. That was kind of just part of my plan with my family and things. And like I had the opportunity to go to USC Film School, so it was kind of like I can't say no. Like I'm from LA. I went to Windward. Like I wasn't planning on staying here, but then I got in and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go live in downtown for 4 years. So like it's fun. But I don't know. I think there's obviously you see all these quotes of like famous directors being like, you should go do whatever. Like I think it's whatever works for you. And I don't think every single person is gonna go try to be like whatever, name your director. Like I think it's, at least for me, film schools made me understand the industry to like a new level. And I think like I have been on real sets also, so I do understand, I have learned it from that as well. But I think coming up with people my own age has been a really interesting experience. And I think hopefully we can all like be in the industry together and have those connections we made through school. So that's like hopefully the benefit of going to film school.
Yes, as the unseen thing, this fraternity that you develop because you come up together. And one adage from SC, I don't know if you've heard it. Yes, Henry, I've probably said it, is your friends are going to be the ones that hire you and fire you, and it's not necessarily who you know. I know a ton of people. You guys know a ton of people. It's who knows you. It's who goes, I want to work with Andreas. I heard he's great. Or I've heard Maria is just on top of it. I want to make sure we have her on our set. So, but coming up together with colleagues and peers, those relationships start to pay off right away and also down the line as well. Andreas, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just want to echo most of what Henry said because I agree, like those are the pros of it. For me personally, it was similar where I knew that I was going to go to college, and then so that kind of just made sense as a route. But I think it's not that film school is objectively good or objectively bad, but there's just certain people that it would work better for. Like I had a professor who told us like he's like, yeah, Quentin Tarantino wasn't going to go like sit down in a film school. And it's just because like, there's either you need those sort of parameters to work in to network to, rise in a sort of like cohort with people that you can make films with in the future. Or, you could also benefit from going the industry route and just throwing yourself out there. At the end of the day, whether you do film school or not, I think it's people fall into this illusion that just like selecting like, yeah, I'm going to go to this film school is going to do it instantly. And I think it's just no matter which one you do, you got to put in the work. So just know that if you go to that film school, you got to get out there, you got to be meeting people. I don't think the degree will do it on its own. It's actually applying it.
Very well put. Very well put. And there's a lot of YouTube stuff about Tarantino talking about this. Even Scorsese went to NYU, and he both champions it, but also says it's not necessary. So it depends on the human being. I'm crazy. I went 3 times because I love it. I'm obsessed with film. It's all I ever want to talk about. So to go to SC and to UCLA and then to go to Spielberg School, like, well, that's no problem for me. I'll talk about it all day. So Maria, I know you had chosen, did you choose last minute to lean into the film side? Because I remember talking with Regina, and she's like, I think Maria's going to go and do this. Did you know that you wanted to do it, or was it just like, fine, I'm going to do this because I got excited about it? What was that change for you?
I wanted it. Well, I guess I was in denial. I didn't apply anywhere for film. I applied for physics and engineering. I applied to 15 schools, 14 of them for physics and engineering. And then BU, for whatever reason, I applied undeclared in College of Communications because I thought like that would be the easiest school to get into here. And I didn't think I had a chance to get into this school because the acceptance rate's low, but I somehow, yeah. But what's so funny is like my parents did not encourage film school, which is ridiculous coming from my mother. But she was like, you can do grad school with film. Like you can do undergrad something else. So originally I was like, oh, I'll do sports journalism because I like baseball and I could talk about baseball. And then I took journalism courses and I hated it. And then I called my dad one day and was like, hey, I'm gonna declare a major in film. And that was the end of it. But I to answer the first question, I don't think film school is necessary whatsoever. I think that you can be just as successful in the industry without having this degree. However, if you're required to get a degree by your parents, it's like, what else are you going to study for 4 years? Like, I can't imagine sitting in a class for anything else. I have so much respect for the STEM kids. Thank you for being doctors and going through 8+ years of school. But ultimately, like, this is the only thing that I'm passionate enough to do for 4 years and beyond. So, I mean, that's why I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll also say, like, not to, like, you know, gloss over like the genuine opportunities that it gives you. Like, I think us saying that isn't trying to do that, but I think, because I think all three of us said we're from LA too. So that, I think, already is a huge opportunity that we're kind of where it's at. So we're like, oh, film school, no film school, but there's definitely the option of, like, you know, a film school getting you in contact with these communities that you wouldn't have been in contact with before, and the equipment and all that is great. So, like, that is another reason to do it.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, speaking of not just doing the program, but is it not the most fun you've had? Is it not incredible and challenging? Excellent. You know, you guys, it'll be interesting to see your guys' stories when you have time away from the programs too, because the hardest part is after you graduate. And someone who's done it 3 times, and I started making films at 9 years old, because I knew at 9 years old that I wanted to be a filmmaker. It hasn't made my life any easier. In fact, it's made it harder because I'm still trying to do certain things I want to do. But going back to passion and what you love, if you are doing what you love, that to me is success, and that to me is happiness. And you do only have one shot to live your best life. So might as well come to the dark side and be a filmmaker, right? Maria, I'm curious, do you know any particular BU alumni that are in the industry? Because I don't know enough about BU's program. Is there anyone that we may know?
No.
You're the only one.
I forget the names, but it's the people who produced Uncut Gems.
Okay. Good film.
But what's so funny is it's also, I think, the producers for the movie Spotlight, which I think got Best Picture in 2015, if I'm correct. But BU loves that, and in College of Communication, in almost every room, there's a poster of that movie. I've yet to see it, but they take so much pride. But in our acting, like, we got Julianne Moore, Marissa Tomei, we have Howard Stern.
Big storyteller.
Yeah. But yeah, this was a little embarrassing on that side.
It's not at all, because there's so many schools out there, and there are legendary alumni that come from it. But ultimately, you guys are in the next generation. You're the next trailblazers, you know? So, and just because you come from a school with a great legacy doesn't mean it's gonna make it mean anything at all, right? So
yeah.
Excellent. We got 4 more minutes. Anyone, let's see, everyone's hanging out with the NYU kids. Big mistake, by the way. Big mistake. We got the West Coast and we got BU here, USC and UCLA. Well, really proud of you guys. You know, it takes a lot of courage to chase your dreams and to go to one of these programs. They say you know, why not go to do something safer, being a doctor, lawyer, or dentist? But I think being happy is being safe. I think choosing what you're interested in. You can always change and become an entertainment lawyer afterwards. You can always go and do neurophysicism, whatever afterwards, or being a math scientist later. But you might as well try what you're passionate about. I think that's what your bachelor's degree should be about, what you're generally interested in. Okay. Any advice, and I'm recording this for the participants that are not in this particular session, anything that you would recommend to a student who is considering going to a film school or a multimedia school, but not quite sure? Because you guys all applied to various schools and various programs. Maria, you had a change of heart. Is there any advice or encouragement or something you could say to them if they're on the fence, or they're scared? Because a lot of our students are very scared to go, okay, I'm going to be a filmmaker. Henry?
I mean, first off, I'd say don't be scared, because there's no reason to be. I would say, or my advice, I guess, would be is, like, like this major compared to any other major that I've seen or people I know who go to USC or probably all schools, like my life is my film major, you know, like this is like what I do and this is what I love to do. So it's like if you should just like you should just love it. And no matter what school you go to, like you can make it as much of your time or as little as your time as like the major is gonna let you. But I just it's what I like to do. So I'd say like just do what you like to do. And I think you don't need to be like an adult to know that. Like I think even in middle school or high school, you kind of start to gravitate towards certain things. And for me, that was film at Windward. I'm sure that's a lot of kids there too.
Totally true. We have such a robust program here, but it is still makes them students nervous saying, can I do this? Am I good enough? You know, do I have what it takes? Do I need to be great before I go? And I think one thing that we didn't see in the discussion is some students came with very little backgrounds in storytelling or film, but they just wanted to learn. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, film school is the best place to make mistakes because that you're there to grow and to learn. You're not there to be a master or be the best. Although there's plenty of kids that you guys know in your programs that did think they're the best. I also thought that way when I came into my program. But that's how it goes when you go to USC. Anyone else on that? Any words of advice for a student that's maybe on the fence, not sure? Maria?
Yeah, I guess I was kind of in a similar boat because I wasn't like 100% sure about film, which is why I chose BU because all of these schools, BU had such a good reputation in every single school. So I knew that whether if I wanted to switch majors to business or like data science or whatever it would be, that I would be in a good place because there are some film schools that they're really well known for film. But then if you make that decision that you don't want to do that, then all of a sudden that the value of that degree is a little less than it could have been. But yeah, I think also giving it 2 years before you make that decision is good because freshman year is slow. And a lot of kids here switch out freshman year, but sophomore year is when it gets going. And you don't have to declare like fully your major at most schools, at least until either second semester, sophomore year, or early junior year. So you have time to make those decisions. So I don't think people should feel rushed to decide it or pressured or anything because you have time. Also, if you don't like it or you choose not to do film school and then you regret that, you can always transfer. Like there's so many options. But I know college is just so stressful and everyone wants to go to the best school they can go to. But like there's so many ways to get there.
Very well put. Very well put. Andreas, Henry, you probably have more to add, but I'm going to bring everyone back into the room so we can say our final goodbyes and to thank you guys. So here we go. Let's see. All participants will be trained. Here we go. Oh, 60 seconds. Oh, we'll just go ahead and do it now. Close. Okay. We're bringing everyone back in. Just for a quick farewell and to thank you to our panelists. Let's make sure we get everyone in. Okay. 35 more seconds. I wish there were the button that just brings everyone back in. Eli Mayer's here. Hudson and Brian are now in the same frame. Okay. We hope you guys have had a great chat. And if there's questions that you have not yet had answered, you can message your MAFL mentors. We will put the email addresses of the students that are willing to share them on the Eventbrite, so you can actually follow up with them. It's important to know that we're all one big community. Doesn't matter what school you go to, we're all a part of this generation of storytelling. And now more than ever, it really matters the stories we tell and how we support each other in being the best storytellers we can be. So thank you to our storytellers here. Let's get a visual round of applause if you can. Eli, Haven, thank you. Eden, great. Thank you guys. Hudson with the digital clap. T-Rush, Colleen, Regina, Katie, all of our faculty members and our parents that came to support. Thank you so much. We're going to post this video probably on that Eventbrite as well. May 19th is our MAFL showcase. Keep an eye out for the invitation email if you haven't already received it. the theme this year is the next level of storytelling. And so alumni, students, if you're curious, come find out what that means. Thank you guys so much and have a great night. Okay, we're having the after party here. Ari left. Look at you guys. You guys stayed for the after party. All right, let's go.
That was amazing.
That was so cool.
Thank you guys so much for putting this on.
Oh, thank you. You made it special. It was amazing. I'm sorry about Eli. We'll take that out later in our recording.
Oh no.
What did we miss?
Eli had a lot of questions.
Oh, that was so funny.
I mean, they were good questions.
They
Yeah.
were.
He's hilarious.
Our most passionate students. So you want to talk about passion?
I can tell.
So much.
Loves
He's got it.
loves it. He's taking 8 classes at Windward. I mean, the kid is yeah.
So funny.
Really nice seeing you guys. You guys know that Windward is your home. We're always here in your corner. All of us, Regina, myself, Katie, you guys always have a lot of love and support here. And we want you guys to be the best versions of yourselves. And one of the things we talked about in the amazing USC room, which where's Henry's already gone, whatever. Being a good person matters. It really matters. And it matters more than ever before, especially in our storytelling. So thank you guys for being here and being the people that you are, and Hudson bringing Brian a part of this, and Andreas being here. It was just a wonderful, wonderful evening. And that's all I'm going to say. The rest is you guys.
Thank you, media arts people, for being incredible, inspiring teachers. So,
Thank you, Maria. I'll see you soon. I miss you.
I miss you too.
All right.
nice to
you
meet
can come.
you. Oh my gosh.
Hi.
Hey.